Rivers don't drink their own water. Have you seen any time trees eating their own fruits or giving shade to themselves? Have you seen the sun, which doesn't give heat? It doesn't need light, but it gives light for others. If the sun doesn't arise, we live in darkness. Have you seen flowers not allowing you to take away the fragrance? Once a flower is blossomed, it's giving its fragrance, right? Take a rose. So look at nature. You can learn a lot from nature, that they don't live for themselves, they live for others. So if living for others is a rule of nature, and if therein lies the secret of living, then why are we behaving different? Because we are also a part of that nature.
Hello, sir. Welcome to the podcast, and I am so excited to have you. Here we are finally recording an episode.
Well, how about you? I hope you're all safe back in India.
So, I am great. So, things are a bit uncertain here, but I am hoping we'll get back to normal very soon.
Great. I hope the whole world, which is going through these unprecedented times, recovers soon and everybody are back in action.
Right.
And by the way, thank you for having me on your podcast.
It is
Uh,
absolutely our pleasure.
I'm deeply touched by your foundation, Mitti Ke Rang, and the founders' work in various grassroots level activities like empowering women, education, and the Milap feeding of 200 families during these COVID times. Oh, this is remarkable. And also thank Amit for making me part of this initiative in a small way. Thank you to you as well.
You're welcome, sir, and I'm very sure you'll be able to add great value to the lives of listeners. So, I am very excited today to talk to you about growth and growth strategies and then talk about social ventures, building sustainable ventures. So, the first question that I would like to ask and that I would like to start the podcast with is, what does growth mean to you?
Well, growth is such an inclusive word that it could mean different to different people and is very contextual. So let me help articulate the way it means to me, and I'll take a two-dimension view of that. One, me as an individual, and then me as a executive in an organization, because that sums up the two facets of me, both as individual and an executive in an organization. So, in terms of an individual, it means growth in wisdom, brilliance, and character. Instead of simply going through life, growth can mean to grow through life, a journey which one takes from selfish to selfless. And how can one turn to be net contributor instead of being a net consumer? This is what growth to me is from an individual point of view. In terms of an organization, it can simply mean the organized act of growing bigger, better in terms of value, volumes, numbers, and strength, and then encompassing with very softer core issues like corporate culture, values, mission, and vision. So this is what it means. Just like a seed, when planted, has green shoots. Every organization's journey begin with simple steps and vision of a person. These days we call them as startups.
Right.
Startups with right idea, dedicated effort, a bit of a luck, and growth pains. This is how the startup start with, which when a bit of a luck adds on, it transforms into a company. When we talk about a company, it's just not the structure, but just means a group of people joining together. And then what happens is, with a bit of a shared vision and an enlarged cohesive efforts, it grows bigger and bigger, and then again transforms into an organization.
Right.
When the organization, with its continued learning, metamorphoses into an empowering and all inclusive, then it becomes an institution. So you can see, from an organization point of view, growth means constant evolution and transformation. And every organization starts with an idea of an individual. Then it becomes a company, common purpose, organization with a shared vision, and then it turns into an institutional with values, cultures, and ethics. And
Right.
it it takes years and depends on the field of activity, the business model, the people, the founders, management, employees, the strategy which they put behind it, how well it is understood, implemented, and executed. So these are certain things uh, which one can draw upon as to how a company, from a company point of view, what growth means. And let me share a small example uh, when you mean about growth. Amazon, as we all know, started with selling books online. And this company, along with Google, baffles me the most because, unlike other peers of trillion-dollar valuation companies who have a long history like Apple and Microsoft, Amazon and its CEO, Jeff Bezos, they have come a very long way since the early days of starting the company, and is now a behemoth, one of the most valuable companies in the world. I think last Friday, 24th of July, I saw it had a market cap of $1.5 trillion. What amazes me is, well, by the way, Mishika, today we are in the month of July, and exactly 25 years ago, I think in 1995, July 1995, somewhere around, uh, Amazon launched its website that sold books. And Jeff Bezos had this vision for companies' explosive growth and e-commerce domination. Incidentally, he borrowed about a quarter million, which is about 250K dollars, from his parents, who would ask him, what is internet? Remember, in 1995, people would ask, what is internet? And
Right.
he knew from the very beginning that he wanted Amazon to be an everything store. And then there are other examples. These days people talk about unicorns. Unicorns are those startups with over $1 billion valuations. Like some of the Indian names I can tell you is Byju's, Paytm, Snapdeal, then Elon Musk's SpaceX. Then there are disruptors, in the asset light category, like Airbnb or Oyo rooms in the hospitality sector, Uber, Lyfts of the world, Ola cabs. They're disrupting the transportation. Then in the payment space, there is Stripes. There are many Bitcoins who are making a difference in a lot way. And I see India is a hotbed of young, educated, and full of ideas people. We all know how Flipkart's story has become a tipping point, and now there's no longer looking back. There are many young entrepreneurs who are coming up with new ideas. I was very excited to see two companies which I could not stop talking about today. One was a Delhi-based company called Rivigo. It's disrupting in logistics and freight services. I think founded by some person, gentleman called Deepak Garg. And the other is a Bangalore-based company called ID Foods. It is founded by PC Mustafa. They're selling just fresh idli and vada batter, but huge value proposition. And that's what growth means to me. That you take ideas, you nurture them, you grow them, you bring about value to the world. This is what growth to me would mean. I hope that's a very encompassing answer to your small question.
Definitely, sir. It did include all the examples and very well put up. So, sir, growth strategies differ from time to time. So, what, according to you, are the factors that we should keep in mind while we are looking to grow, as in for an organization or a startup?
We can take uh, couple of examples to talk about some of the successful companies, how they have done. And let me start giving you two diverse examples, and then we will take a deep dive of the same Amazon example. Let's take McDonald's. We all have, at some point of time went to a McDonald's restaurant and had the burger. So how does McDonald's deal with? It's food, essential, quick service, quick meal, happy meal, inexpensive, but quality. So what are they trying to do? Scale and reach out.
Right.
So you have a scale, they multiply in terms of outlets, the footfalls, and the quick meal they serve, expensive, inexpensive, but very quality. With this, they're trying to get into the scale sector and trying to meet the food essential needs of the people. Let's take another example, very diverse. Apple. We all know Apple started some 30 odd years ago, or 40 years ago, with strategies around product innovation. They started with some Apple computing, the computers. Then over the last 15, 20 years, they moved into iPhones, iPods, iPads, then the music, the iOS experience. So what are they trying to do? Product, innovation, technology. And now if you take about, Apple is moving into healthcare, with all the devices you have on your handhelds. They're able to take your heartbeat readings. All these are going to the doctor. So what technology can do is an encompassing thing. Then they moved into entertainment, the Apple TVs and other stuff, which you can see. And they are doing their own retailing. So the Apple strategy revolves around product, innovation, technology, and customer satisfaction. So you could see between two companies, very diverse, but both are very successful companies. And to dive deep into Amazon, personally, I'm a big fan of Amazon. And I was reading a book somewhere in 2018, written by Jeffrey and Brian Eisenberg. And the title of the book is Be Like Amazon, Even a Lemonade Stand Can Do It, which means that any business, if they follow certain fundamentals, what Amazon followed, then the businesses can be successful. So what are those real decisions and real outcomes, and how did Amazon build this strategy? So let's take a slight deep dive into this. Amazon built their entire business model on customer centricity. Rather than trying to stay ahead of its competitors or building capacities, Amazon tried to stay one step ahead of its customers. And essentially, if somebody needs to be like Amazon, then you got to be obsessed with your customer experience, prioritizing the needs and desires above everything. And I'm told uh, in one of the interviews that actually Amazon, in their boardrooms, they put a chair, a physical empty chair, to remind that it is the customer who is sitting there, and we got to look at every of our initiatives through that customer's eyes and lens. And they say if somebody wants to recommend a new product, they must write a press release outlining the benefits of the products they envision, and only after it is getting cleared from a customer's perspective, it gets into an action. So you can see from that the kind of importance that they're talking about for customer centricity. The second pillar which they had is innovation. You know, this is about coming up with new ideas and new ways of doing things, not just for the sake of some creativity or impressing someone or impressing your stockholders, but true innovation is about bringing value to customers. Because any innovation that does not benefit the customer won't be of any use or any benefit to you. It won't help the organization grow if you're not able to benefit your customers? And you see, innovation, simple innovations are also very value added. It's just not innovation means some radical new idea. It can happen with a lot of creativity. You serve your customer, or how you deal from your office cubicle, or how you're conducting a meeting. And Jeff Bezos once said, I like to wander down the path of ideas, which means that, look, you have an idea and you're visualizing it, because ideas are thoughts. And you can only walk your thoughts when you're able to wander those ideas, put them constructively, visualize them. So this is how you come up with innovations. And the third pillar, which uh, Amazon had, is agility, corporate agility. And this is about the speed of doing things. And if you recall, some 20 years ago, Bill Gates actually had authored a book, Business at the Rate of Speed of Thought. So organizations need to have that speed of thought and execution, the ability to remain flexible and very adaptable, regardless of your business and the stage of growth in the business you are in. Because often as businesses grow, as they become bigger and bigger, they lose that ability of agility. And as soon as they start losing it, it is the beginning of the end. And this particular thing reminded me of Kodak, the cameras company, which used to make film and cameras. Uh, in 1975, actually, one of its employee came up with a concept of a digital camera. But the management thought, oh, it's going to cannibalize our business of making films and those cameras which would work on film. So they killed it. They killed the thought. They killed the idea. No wonder. Uh, Fast forward into 2012, the Kodak gone into a complete bankruptcy. They filed for bankruptcy. So this is what you need to do. You need to continuously invest in yourself. You need to be willing to disrupt your own business. Otherwise, we will end up with, oh, what happens if my own product or a service kills me? If your own product service kills you, it's much better than being killed by a competitor. So this is what you mean agility. And the fourth principle is optimization, which Amazon believes in, that you need to continuously optimize, because every small thing counts. And when you start adding up these small things, they all add up and they become big. I think last week or sometime you guys have conducted a session with Dr. Ivan Meisner. So Ivan, when he read this book, he commented that if you want to be like Amazon, then put the relationships in the front and then center. And continuous improvements is not about cost cutting, but about building those relationships. So essentially, when you have a connected minds, you have a universal mind, it creates million possibilities. If you have a mind which is unconnected to the realities, then that unconnected mind limits the possibilities. So there is no one strategy which will fit for all. You need to look at what is the purpose and how you're going to work yourself and connect to those million possibilities. And that creates a strategy. And there is no one size which fits for all. Each organization, now we saw three companies, right? We saw how McDonald's works, how Apple works, and how Amazon works. They all are highly successful companies, but each of them follow a different path to creating. At the end of it, they have one thing in common. Look at what the consumer wants and how you're satisfying them.
Right, sir. A company which also speaks to me is Netflix. How before, when they were into their initial period of existence, they were into distributing DVDs and CDs, and how they adapted with digital streaming and adapted with time and the needs of the customers.
Absolutely. I mean, no better example. Uh, you can see that a lot of companies which distribute the VHS tapes, the CDs, with the coming of cloud and cloud computing, and you can reach out en masse, and you can put it onto the cloud. Everything is possible with the technology. If any company which is adapting itself to technology is putting itself the best foot forward to the future. Otherwise, you end up like laggards.
Right.
Take the case of Microsoft even. Microsoft was a product-centric company. They used to make this DOS and Windows, uh, but then they adapted very fast in the last 10 years. They changed the management. They are now into gaming solutions. They are into artificial intelligence. So adaptation is the key, whether it is me as an individual or as an organization. And that's the server success which lines behind people who are able to create million possibilities.
Right. And I remember when the first MacBook ad came, I remember seeing the MacBook ad and how Apple make ads. It is very interesting to me. Just to show how thin it was, what they did was they took out the MacBook out of a very thin A4 envelope, and the ad was beautiful. I can go on seeing it over and over.
Yeah. Well, the ads are to ultimately convey what is the value to it and how you capture the essence of it. But at the core of it is what is satisfying you, right? To
Right.
have a light MacBook and that Apple logo, which is that cut Apple logo. So, my first MacBook was floored just for that logo. So sometimes, nice ways of capturing people's and imaginations.
Right, sir. So, sir, talking about social ventures. So I personally know a lot of social ventures that came into existence and within a year or two they died. So the missing factor was sustainability, how to keep them sustainable and how to make them relatable to all the people, irrespective of what time we are going through, what era we are going through. So what according to you makes a social venture relatable, and how do we communicate in a way that speaks to the audience?
You know, we saw this example of Amazon, right? Uh, how does it differ from a social venture to that of a corporate venture? As long as the essence of it, the quintessential part of it, the existential issue, whether it is a social enterprise, an NGO, or a corporate, if you know what is your true nature and purpose of the organization or the setup, whether it is making products or services or serving the needs of the people, ultimately the end, whether it is a consumer or it is a society, if you are able to identify what is the need of that, and second, you know you need to constantly communicate why you're existing, the value proposition, and you need to understand that it is just not some kind of a opportunity which you're thinking about it. You're continuously at it, driving it, making sure you take the feedback and the feed forward, which will then help you to remain to the core of what you're doing. Many people or many companies, including individuals, uh, people lose a focus in between way.
Right.
This generally happens even with students. They end up taking a kind of courses which they want. At the end of 6 months or 1 year, they realize, oh, this is not who we are. And what do they do? They drop out of that and they start pursuing something very different. So the core is to be understood, and this could happen with all the youngsters like you. I think you're doing your economics graduation, undergraduation.
Right, sir.
Uh, if you look at US or American or European students, they take that, they finish a year, and they say, hey, it's not me. In the same way, many organizations and social organizations, people start, but without knowing the purpose of it. So that's the core. Everybody needs to know the core of it, And if they know it, then definitely there's no reason why they need to give up or not be successful.
Right. Even I believe in purpose and intent. If you have the right purpose and intent, there's nothing stopping you.
Absolutely, absolutely, Mishika.
So, sir, talking again, going back to the growth strategies and the methods the companies adopt, how do you think this will change and transform in the post-COVID era?
Ah, I think we are seeing that COVID, these unprecedented situations, has been a learning, or rather, I would say, a wake-up call, whether it is for individuals or organizations, right?
Right.
Everybody is waking up to a new reality, a new normal. How will it change? I think it depends on uh, very different factors like the socioeconomic factors and uh, the way people conduct their livelihoods. From a social point of view, what I'm tending to what I'm tending or seeing to believe is that uh, this can put a lot of pressure in emerging economies. It can put a lot of pressures in frontier economies, which are like some of the African and South American nations, and some of the countries like India. I'm sure you're witnessing back home what kind of turmoil it has created in March and April. All these things are leading to believe that, look, we need to have more mix of capitalism and socialism mixed. And you can see the examples like how Germany or New Zealand or some of the other countries are able to counter these unprecedented times in a very organized and sustainable way. What we need in some of these emerging nations is that we can't expect the governments to do all by themselves, because the government has itself a lot of issues to handle. And when we don't have a core infrastructure like healthcare or other means of employment, where a lot of unorganized employment is related, all these unorganized employments, they can close overnight, right?
Right.
So a gradual process, uh, and is a cohesive effort of both the government, the social enterprises, and the corporates to come together in this need and stay together in meeting these challenges. At a personal level, I think I have realized that uh, I can I can do with very limited things. I can survive and sustain with not with the lifestyle, but with life needs. So for me, at this point of time, needs are more valued than style.
Absolutely. I think it is all, it has made us all realize how there's a difference between needs and wants.
Absolutely.
So, sir, hopping on to the two questions I have for you before we end the podcast. So, those two questions are, the first one being, what is the best advice you've ever got, be it in your personal life or your professional life, that you would sum up into a 5 to 7 word presentation title?
Okay, let me not bore with you what I have received, because what I have received, what I have applied may not be applicable for everyone. Uh, and more importantly, I'm still work in progress. Uh, I got to learn a lot more. I got to do a lot more. So I would say that let me share some of the best advices or learning lessons which I have gathered around from simple things, watching around. And one of such things which I watch around is nature. When you see in nature, everything exists together in a delicate balance. Uh, Nothing in nature lives for itself. Rivers don't drink their own water. Have you seen any time trees eating their own fruits or giving shade to themselves? Have you seen the sun, which doesn't give heat? It doesn't need light, but it gives light for others. If the sun doesn't arise, we live in darkness. Have you seen flowers not allowing you to take away the fragrance? Once a flower is blossomed, it's giving its fragrance, right? Take a
Right.
rose. So look at nature. You can learn a lot from nature, that they don't live for themselves, they live for others. So if living for others is a rule of nature, and if therein lies the secret of living, then why are we behaving different? Because we are also a part of that nature. So this is one learning which I have taking it from observing. Then the other small learning which I had was from watching the movie Lion King. I had watched it 20 years ago, and I watched it now recently, which has come the newer version. And there's a beautiful conversations between the father and son, Mufasa and Simba, and the the Mufasa trying to tell the son, "You must remember who you are. You're a true king." Remember? You
Right.
must
Yes,
have seen
sir.
that. You're a true king. What does that signify? It signifies is, while others search for what they can take, a true king searches for what he can give. This is the difference between taking and giving. And he says, a king's time as a ruler rises and falls like the sun. And he says, one day, sun, the sun will set on my time and it will rise with you as a ruler. So it's a constant reminder to us of our limitedness. We are all born by time, that one day we will also rise and fall, but nobody can sustain that. And beautiful ending of that particular theme is that, look, we all must take our place in the circle of life. We must play it by the day, enjoy it. Like Kalidasa, one of our famous poets, says, look, it is today, everything is today. जीवन आज का जीवन है, इसको बड़ी खुशी से जियो.
Right. Being present oriented and longing to make an impact.
Yes, yes, absolutely.
Beautiful, sir. I would like to thank you for the great insights and the values you've provided us. And thank you for being with us. Thank you for sharing such great insights.
No, no, I'm thankful to you. I'm not a CK Prahlad or a Peter Drucker or Dr. Ram Charan, but the kind of questions which you have asked, which you have researched, are so relevant and pertinent to everyone. Thank you for having me on your podcast. Let me end with saying, be safe, stay safe, wish safe for everyone. And the last word from our ancient wisdom, Loka samasta sukhino bhavantu.